start while they figure out projection issues. I wanted to do a demo for you guys, and turns out the HDMI connection's not working, so we'll just wait for a bit and see how it goes. So my name is Palak Kadakia. I'm a product manager here at UiPath. I've been here like 3 or 4 months now, 4 months. And I'm running front office automation. And so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what UiPath is doing in terms of front office automation. But first I want to ask you guys some questions. How many of you here have users using attended automation? Okay. Not very many. And how many folks here are on 2018.3 and above? Just 1 or 3. Okay, good to know. What are some of the challenges you guys have seen with your end users using attended automation? Is it working well? Is it not working? What are some of the issues? Anyone? For those of you who are using it? No. And for folks who are not using it, any thoughts on why? No. All right. In that case, let's get started. So Daniel Dines, our CEO, said that our vision is to have one robot for every person. We cannot realize this vision until attended automation is truly realized. Attended automation is key to the success of this mission that we have. If you think about it, all of us perform a lot of manual tasks on a day-to-day basis, especially when you look at users like contact centers or human resources or tax and underwriters and things like that, right? They spend so much of their time filling out forms, they're doing data entry, copying information from one system to another, or dealing with data inconsistencies across multiple systems. If we can arm them with attended robots to go make this stuff easy for them, we can significantly improve their quality of work. So with that, let me actually go into more detail for how we, UiPath, are trying to improve the product to help with this attended automation scenario. First of all, in 18.3 and 18.4, we invested a ton in enabling functionality that makes it easy for people to use our robot tray. If you recall, well, most of you are still not on 18.3, so if you look at our robot tray today, it's fairly simple. You can't resize it, you can't search. With 18.3, we added the ability to resize the robot tray. We've also added the ability to search within the tray so that if you have a long list of processes, you can quickly find the ones that you need. Next, we have, I'm sure you've heard about floating robots in other sessions as well. What we've done is we've added attended floating robots as well, where you have a one-to-one mapping between robot and user. In the past, the mapping was between a robot and user-machine pair. We've disconnected the machine from that. So now, as a user, if you move from one machine to another, your settings and all your processes kind of go with you, as long as you have a license available, of course. Next is we've added orchestrator in the settings as well, so you can now switch between multiple orchestrators. So if you have a production environment and a test environment and you want to switch between those, you can do that from within the tray and you don't have to switch machines and things like that. And then the other really cool thing that I'll also demo a little bit later is that we've added a couple of activities. One is to block user input. So in UI automation cases where user input can actually break automation, you can now prevent users from interacting with the system completely. So it blocks mouse and keyboard input until you press a hotkey, which is configurable. And the second one is custom input forms. So we hear a lot from customers that attended automation users need to specify some basic information or more complex information sometimes. And we've faced this challenge with our validation station in our ML space, where we need to pop up some UI so the users can say, yes, this is correct, or no, this is not correct, or enter some information. And so we built this ability to do custom input forms. So you can build an HTML page and supply it to this activity, and it'll pop that open at whatever stage in your workflow you configure it for. And then in 18.4, we introduced another activity to report status. So again, you can kind of say, I'm on step 1 of 5, or whatever you want it to say. It's a text field, and it shows up in your attended automation. So I'll show you a sample of that as well, assuming my computer is working. And then, of course, pausing and stopping execution from the tray. So if you need to do some work while processes are running, you can pause it, go deal with it, and then resume the process. Processes have to be designed in a way that it's easy to pause them, but the capability is available. And then we, of course, display the running process. So let's actually, instead of me talking, take a look at what this looks like in practice. Okay, can you switch to demo? Is it not working still? Yeah. Well, that's for my network, but. All right, we'll just continue. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to continue with the slides, and then we'll come back to the demo once they've resolved it. So what we've talked about so far is what's already implemented in the product. We have a whole ton of stuff coming in as part of our roadmap over the next few months that I wanted to quickly walk you through. But first, note that you guys are the first people to see parts of this roadmap, and nothing is set in stone. It's very, very early. Any screens that you see here are also very, very early. So just be aware of that fact that it's early, okay? So in terms of roadmap, we kind of think about front office automation, and we've broken it out into 4 big areas of investment for us, for the company. First is improving the attended experience. So you already saw some of the improvements we made to the robot tray. We want to continue expanding on those over the next year as well, and I'll go into more detail on each one of these coming up. Next is, let's go back. Human-process interaction. Again, we built custom input forms, but that's only scratching the surface. We want to go make that significantly easier for everyone as well. The next one is hybrid RPA. We get asked from customers all the time, how do we trigger unattended automation from attended and vice versa? We have processes that need to be chained. How do we go make that happen easily? That's something that we're going to invest in as well. And then the last, and most important in my opinion, is client extensibility. It's that you should be able to run any process from anywhere. So if you build a custom client and you want to just trigger a process from it, you should be able to do that. So let's go into more detail on each one and kind of talk about what specific functionality we are hoping to enable. First, in improving the attended experience, we want to focus on robot tray accessibility. This has been just customer feedback we've gotten. Actually, a lot of the things you'll see on this list are based on feedback that we've got from many, many customers. That keyboard access and things like that are super important in the tray for them. Next is the ability to have global hotkeys for pause and resume. I believe we already shipped this recently, so it might be something that already works. But we added the buttons to do that. We haven't added the ability to actually do it using shortcuts, so we want to add that in too. And then another huge requirement from people is have the robot tray always on top. So as I can watch the updates, the progress in my process, or I can launch different processes as one finishes instead of it hiding all the time behind the app that's currently loaded. The next one is the ability to mark processes as favorites and apply tags to it. So as an end user, I should be able to mark a process as favorite, and then, assuming I'm using a floating robot, go to any other machine and have my favorites show up for me. The second part, which is a little bit more interesting, is having the organization apply tags to processes. So you could say, all of these processes are for human resources, and you can bundle them under it. And then if you notice on the screen over there, on the right here, you'll see the 17, 3, and 2. I know it's a little bit hard to see. These are just wireframes, but that's where the tags will show up. So if you've marked something as human resources, you should be able to click on that HR tag, and it'll filter all the processes down to just that list. So if that's what you work off of for the most part, it should be easy enough to find stuff. And as we try to get to this point of anybody can build automation using Studio X, and anybody can run automation using our robot tray, we really need to make it easy for users to find what they need and quickly run it, and view progress on each one. So you'll also notice that we're showing kind of the progress for how far along you are in this process. And the last one is, we've gotten this ask from enterprises a lot, is we want to put our own logo on here because we're deploying it to our user base. And so we want to add that functionality in as well. Okay. The next big one is hybrid RPA. This is the ability for attended and unattended processes to coordinate with each other, the ability to build chained processes so you can pass context from one to the other and have progress show up inside of your tray or wherever you're watching, orchestrator for that matter. It's knowing who launched the process, which user launched the process, and showing that entire process chain of where it came from and presenting updates back to the user. And now coming up next is our human process interaction. So the hybrid RPA and this flows in very well together, where if you've built your processes already to take human input, even if they're unattended, the tray can tell you, hey, this unattended process actually needs some human input or it's stuck, you need to go deal with it. And if it's part of your chain, it'll just show up in your tray. That's a big thing that we want to invest in, is making sure this experience is end-to-end sort of consistent and it flows well. The next thing is forms, input forms. So I mentioned the HTML forms. If this thing keeps working, I'll show you a sample of how that works today. What we want to do is have a designer that lets you design forms in a drag and drop manner so you don't have to write a bunch of HTML code to make it all work. And the forms can look a lot better, and you can bind it to the data much better as well. So we'll add functionality like business objects or entities, as some might know it, so you can or that are more complex types. So you can bind your forms and fields to that entity or to that data type as well. And then the last piece, of course, and equally important, is process output. So if you want to show output from your process, how do we do it easily as well? Okay. And sorry, I want to quickly point out, again, you'll see the mock-ups here that show how that process input-output scenario can work. This is, of course, one way. Our goal is to enable it so you can customize that form view to whatever you'd like. Okay. And the last one is client extensibility. This one is where we want to provide a robot API so anybody can build processes directly from within their application. So we have many customers who are like, you know what, I need to run these 3 processes from my contact server app. I don't want to have to launch the robot tray all the time. Here's an API. You can trigger the process you want directly using that API. We also want to provide the ability to embed widgets directly inside of your forms or your applications so that you can trigger more than one, but it's all integrated so you don't have to keep switching between apps. I mean, that's the whole point of RPA, right, to minimize switching. And so tray shouldn't be one of the apps that you have to switch to. So this is something that we're investigating, looking into how we can enable. And you'll see an example over here of what that could look like, where we embed our tray or equivalent an agent that lives inside of your application. Okay. And then coming back to the business objects and data types, that becomes really important when you're now integrating across multiple systems, because you want to make sure there's one consistent schema for all of the entities that you're integrating with or interacting with, or any data type that you're interacting with, outside of the basic strings and things like that. And so we want to build a business object model that spans all of these different systems, and so you can make it really easy to build your end-to-end processes. Okay. And the last thing that we're going to do is sort of prototype it with a mobile application. A mobile application that you can't actually run process on mobile, but you can visualize your process status. You can see how your chain process is doing. You can look at the steps that have been followed and what you need to do next. Or if human input is required, you can potentially provide that input on your mobile device as well. So those are the key things that we think will enable this end-to-end extensible platform that we aim to get to with UiPath attended automation. Let's see if we have our demo working. Oh, excellent. All right. Sorry, is what? Locked. This is not my laptop. Oh, crap. Hold on one sec. But half the process is on my machine. No, but I want to show. It's not connecting, but yours connected? Okay. Okay, let's see if I could do this. I will build it in Studio from scratch, so it'll take a little bit longer. Oh. Excellent. So Radu here, it looks like, got started. And, okay, this is not. That's too funny. Okay. Oh, can I just VM into, oh, you know what? I have an idea. Let me show you how I can switch to a different orchestrator instance here. Actually, it's probably going to take a while. Okay, never mind. We'll just build one from scratch. So the sequence that I want to build, was, I wanted to show you 3 activities primarily. One is a custom input form, which without my access to my HTML, it's going to be a little bit difficult to do. I will show you how to do the block user input, and I'll show you how to do report status, which Radu already has here, it looks like. So in a scenario where we want to report status of an execution that's running, we can go ahead and pull the status activity. So we have an out-of-box activity for report status, which, let's just delete it. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, something's running. If you guys haven't seen it, we have a dark theme now in Studio. That's the dark theme. There's nothing running. What's going on? Okay. Sorry, guys. This was intended to be a little bit smoother. Yes. No, I know. It's fine. Okay. Let's see if we can make this work. So I'll just start with a blank process. And we'll drag and drop the report status activity, which is what it's called, or not. Sorry, what? Oh, that's right. Never mind. All right. Okay, so we'll drag and drop the report status activity. And it takes one parameter, which is the text that you want to present to that activity. And here I can simply say, so the process that I had set up had a for each loop iterating through an Excel file that would actually say I've done the 1 of 500 rows, I've processed 3 of 500 rows, and so on. And you can include this pretty much anywhere. So in this case, I could just say processing started. And let's go ahead and add a delay here so that it doesn't just finish really fast. I'll go ahead and add a delay for apologies. There we go. Okay, it's not gonna work. Yeah, but I think you have a, on mine it works fine. I think you have a different build, yeah? No? Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. We'll make it easy, and we'll drop in a message box. Okay. Excellent. Now if we go ahead and run this process, are you kidding? No? There we go. if we open our UI status, it tells you processing started, which is the message that I had provided to it. Now, I could go ahead and add multiple different statuses as part of every workflow, and each of these will show up here. This is the best way for us to show progress. The next thing that I could do is add a block activity, which is where if you want to block your UI, you can go ahead and add your block user input activity and throw the message box inside it. And now here, Alt F10 is the key, but you know what? I prefer Control Enter. Right there. And we'll go ahead and run this. And now you'll notice that as this is running, I'm actually unable to do anything with my mouse or keyboard until I press Control Enter, in which case now the keyboard is accessible and I can go ahead and press OK here. The last activity that I wanted to show you is the custom input activity, which crafting HTML right now is probably unwise, but I'll show kind of how that works here. There are two parts to it. One, you can show the URL that represents the URL to the actual form that you've built. It can be a local form, it can be hosted somewhere else. Either way, when you run this, it'll pull that form up and show the data in here. You can, of course, then have variables within that HTML page that you can extract later for use within the rest of your process. So the sample process that I built took phone numbers and updated phone numbers in an Excel file. And so you enter the email address and phone number, and it would just take that data. I just split the string and push that data into Excel. So it's a very straightforward activity to use today. The most complex part of it is actually creating that form itself, for which you have to use external tools. And that's something that we want to go, improve upon later on as well. That was the demo. Any questions? No. Oh, hey.
So as you said, like in the custom activity and custom input, we can put in. Thank you. So my question is like in the custom input, we can put the URL and we can get the HTML page there.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have an HTML page and I have put in some JavaScript into that, would that work?
Yes, the page should just work. Yes, absolutely.
Right. So
Yes.
whatever the variables I'm going to get, it is from there.
It's
so
from the
any
JavaScript.
validation I have given in JavaScript will work.
And it has to happen within your HTML page, yes. And then you can also have validation. You have your variables, you take the output from that, you can parse it inside of your process, and then you can do validation on it inside the process as well.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Nope. All right, well, great. Sorry the demo didn't work out as well as I'd expected, but kind of showed you the highlights anyway. Thanks, everyone.
To the place where one reveals life's mystery. Steady on down the line, lose every sense of time. Take it all in, wake up, that small part.
Oh, I'm unplugging it.
Da-dum-dum.